Come on.
2-minute warning in Nashville, and the Longhorns now, just as the 2-minute warning is happening, appear to have it under control. But we'll see what the last 2 minutes hold. It is 27-17 now, Texas, as they hit a Burt Auburn field goal right after the 2-minute warning. It is the Orange Bloods Live post-game show brought to you by the good folks at Lowy Law Firm. Shout out to Adam and the crew at the Lowy Law Firm. Also, shout out to the crew here at TCH Social Austin. That's where the watch party was once again for Texas and Vanderbilt. Thanks to the TCH Social folks. Thanks to all of you for jumping in. Plenty to discuss as Texas looks like they're going to get another conference win, their first official road SEC win in the conference. And it is 27-17, but there is a lot to get into. That's obviously Jeff Ketchum sitting right there on your left-hand side. I'm Chad Hastings. Anoir Richardson will be joining us from Music City once they get the post-game stuff done, and there should be a lot to talk about here. Ketch, give me your thoughts before we jump in. Obviously, we invite you to jump in with a super chat. If you do that, it'll go right to the top of the list. I don't see any super chats right now, but as soon as they start filing in, we'll stack them up. Before we get there, Ketch, give me your thoughts on 27-17 to this point.
Sometimes you just got to show up and accomplish the job at hand. And I think that for the Texas Longhorns, you look at a game today, this doesn't feel like the kind of performance that will win you many playoff games. Maybe it's not a performance that even wins you games in Fayetteville or College Station later in the year. But it won you a game today, or at least it certainly feels like it's going to win the game, barring what would be a pretty miraculous turnaround for a Vanderbilt offense that scored 17 on the day so far. They've got to find a way to get 10 in the next 2 minutes. If assuming Texas holds on, they'll have won their first road game in the SEC. And I'm writing in my instant analysis over at Orange Bloods that a week ago, Steve Sarkeesian made a point of being asked, did they deserve the win over Oklahoma? And he said, not my problem. We won. Next game. And I wonder if for different reasons, the message might still be the same. Not a lot of style points, but the bottom line is that Texas will go into the bye week with a W. And at the end of the day, with what could be a double-digit win, we'll see how this thing finishes off and whether or not Vanderbilt's able to cut into that. It's kind of a game that a lot of us expected. I think we all picked Texas to win by double digits, but not to cover. I predicted that it would be a 27-20 game going into the fourth quarter. It was a 24-17 game going into the fourth quarter. So, I don't know that there needs to be a lot of overreaction. In a lot of ways, this is kind of turned into a bit of an ugly win, but it's a win. It's going to be a win. Again, barring something unforeseen at this point. I think we all know what Texas needs to work on moving forward. And this season will be defined ultimately by whether or not the things that they need to improve on get accomplished in the coming weeks of the season.
We have a super chat that has come in. Let's go ahead and start there. And Gray Man, we appreciate you jumping in. $4.99. Is Quinn the most unathletic beta quarterback in the SEC? He gift wrapped Vandy 14. Will the media brag about Vandy's D-line like Georgia's? Catch, obviously, a game where you don't, now that's going to be a nice play to close things out. Looks like the Longhorns are going to get a nice long touchdown to end this thing on the defensive side of the ball. There's a flag. Well, Catch, one of the stories I was about to mention may come back to get Texas and not give them a touchdown at the end. I was going to mention turnovers and penalties. Obviously, the turnovers that lead to 14 points from Vanderbilt, and they went on the road, and they put a number of penalties up that you're just not going to love. So,
I mean, it was not a crisp, clean performance.
It was not, and I was just about to, they were about to get a nice, what would that have made it? I guess 34-17 would have looked a little bit better. So there was a tip ball, and I'm not exactly sure what that penalty was. But anyway, that one's going to come back. Oh, boy,
the thing that I think you worry about on this play, Chad, is that could be Vernon Broughton targeting. I don't know if they're going to – that helmet's a helmet. Yeah. So we'll see whether or not that gets reviewed.
Who was that returning that?
That was Kobe Black.
Black, thank you. I couldn't figure out who
Who's
six was on
actually
defense.
showed up a couple of times in the second half this evening. So on a day when Jelani McDonald, I think, was very quietly a talking point in this game in all the right ways. I thought he was really, really good today in his first start. Yeah, Kobe Black popping up a couple of times in this game.
Yeah. So that to the point there, Catch, in terms of the interceptions for Quinn, both of them of the same variety, a tipped ball. How much of those, give me your breakdown of those two picks. Obviously you don't want them, but are those where you say, hey, not the quarterback's fault because they're both tips, or do you think there's stuff Quinn could have done differently as well?
Yeah, the picks didn't really bother me today. You know, I think if you were going to nitpick Quinn, it would be over something like maybe his size and the arm angles that some of his throws come from lead to more tip passes. But at the end of the day, I really don't look at the interceptions as part of Quinn Ewers' afternoon. I didn't think any of them were bad throws. Sometimes shit happens. That was kind of what happened on those plays. Look, Quinn was, I think, pretty good today. You know, sensational in the first half. You know, he had a 200 quarterback rating in the first quarter, a 218 quarterback rating in the second quarter. For you kids doing the math at home, 201 quarter and 218 in the other quarter probably means you finished with a 200 rating at halftime. Not a lot in the second half. I think for me, the story isn't Quinn, although he's baked inside of it. I think for me, this Texas offense has got to re-find itself. That third consecutive game, not really including Mississippi State, although they only scored 35 that day and there were turnovers and mistakes. And so some of the themes even go back before that first, or I guess going back to the first SEC game.
Yeah.
Texas didn't play a spectacular brand of football today. Offensively as well, it looked, and this is actually, I think, a real good compliment for Quinn. If you don't have a quarterback who's as accurate in throwing the ball as well as he did today and completing, I don't know what it was, like 17 of his first 18 passes or 18 of his first 20. He was really, really good early on. Then this game gets even trickier. Quinn was really good today, but this offense wasn't something that you would probably call explosive. So I think there's a new set of conversation and talking points moving forward. And again, they are looking at this for targeting on Vernon Broughton. And if this call holds up, then he's going to miss the first half of the next game, which you hate to see this late. You know, we're in the final 80 seconds of the game, and you hate to lose a guy that's so important potentially for two quarters coming out of the bye week. But I think that's probably, it's going to hold up. It's 1st and 10, Vanderbilt with the ball at the Texas 29 after Texas seemingly having a pick six with the Kobe Black interception. I just think that Texas just got to play better, and there's no reason to panic. There are no super crazy Georgia level games hovering in the distance, but the games do get more difficult. The opponents will be tougher than the one they'll face today. The road environments will be more difficult, and Texas just has to play better. They got to play, once they get to November, they got to start playing really, really good high-level football. And, you know, we probably haven't, in reality and in all honesty, we probably haven't seen that in the month of October, at least on the offensive side of the ball. I thought the defense was really good again today. Somewhat misleading that Vanderbilt has 17. It doesn't feel like they've given up very much. But, boy, if the offense – I don't even know how to call it. They were okay. But, you know, this is a Vanderbilt defense that could be had. And as the game went along, Chad, I think the thing that was maybe the most alarming was that Vanderbilt figured Texas out on offense. And you eventually started seeing Vanderbilt DBs sitting on short routes. And consequently, Ewers' second half pales greatly in comparison to what he did in the first half. And I don't know who you pin that on and exactly where we want to point the finger on that. But this Texas offense has got to find a way to stop operating in a phone booth, or it will get even more difficult in the weeks ahead.
Super chats are there. Remember, we are completely without shame on Orange Bloods Live on the postgame show. Big money goes to the top. Right now, it's all $5 versions, but that big money will go to the top. So if you got a 20 or maybe a 50 or maybe 100 or so, or 300, Tom G, burning a hole, you let us know. We're going to start with Sugar Poppy, $5 here. If Quinn had Pavi as nads, we'd be chasing the second natty. Whoa. Okay. All right.
Can I ask you a question, Chad?
A guts issue with Quinn. Sure.
I don't get the guts thing, and I don't know. Like, maybe there's going to be a disconnect tonight with us and the chatters. Although, again, I've got some issues with the offense, but I don't know that it's guts with Quinn. What did you think of Quinn's performance today? Let me give you the updated numbers as things currently stand. He's 27 of 37 for 288, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and a 154.3 quarterback rating. That's largely impacted by the interceptions that, how much are his fault, on balls like that. Boy, by the way, Vanderbilt scores a touchdown.
Going to say, yeah, we're coming up on a onside kick here with 46 seconds to go. 27-23, about to be 27-24 if Vanderbilt hits the extra point. So
Texas fans won't be happy with this, but I tend to come from the school of thought that maybe you do, which is, hey, man, it's an SEC game. We've seen really good teams go on the road and struggle. While the final score will be closer than anybody will have wanted, unless they recover the onside kick, this game was never in any real danger, and sometimes that's got to be enough in the SEC.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about this is not it wasn't a style points game to me, Catch, but this is about how you close the door. It's not just closing the door, it's how you do it. If you ask one of your kids to close the door and they slam it like a maniac, we have to have a talk. If they close it like a person, then you're okay. This was a game that Texas kicks 2 field goals so far in this second half. It's about snapping the neck, closing the door, and making it for sure. If I'm a Texas fan, Catch, I can live with 27-10. I could live with that. If it was just 2 field goals and then your defense completely shuts them down and you don't have that second pick and you close that out and it's a 17-point SEC win and it feels certain the whole time, that's one thing. That's not what we're seeing. There's just the inconsistency is not good. You can't go packing that many turnovers. You can't go packing that many penalties into a road game. It's just not going to work. And I do agree with you. The offense is still trying to find stuff, and they're not running the ball well enough. I mean, the Wisner Blue, they're trying to figure all that out too. So it's just not a super dynamic offense right now.
No, and that's not what we thought about Texas in the first month of the season. We felt like, is 50 points a game unreasonable to expect? This team looks incredible. It is an offense without Isaiah Bond.
I was going to say, Catch, at what point of the game did you think to yourself, man, are they missing Bond this much? Is he that important? Because I didn't think of it till mid-third quarter, but maybe I should have thought of it sooner.
I think earlier, if I'm being completely honest, but I was noticing it when the offense was doing pretty well. I mean, you had a moment where they're doing well and you kind of, they're not stretching the field at all. And boy, it feels like they're having to earn everything. There's no, you really miss that 4.2, 4.3 speed when it's not out there. Nobody else replicates what he's able to do. By the way, Texas is going to recovers the onside kick. So Vanderbilt's got a couple of timeouts. There's 44 seconds left in the game. Texas is going to win this game. And I just think that for me, the story moving on is they've got to find a way to almost reinvent themselves. And maybe that's too strong of a word offensively, but there's just no getting around the fact that they can't keep doing this, playing the game in a phone booth and think that you're not eventually going to have some issues. And I think for me, this forebodes for the future. This isn't to me, you win this game, and that's ultimately what you needed to do. But you just know that this won't be good enough in future games. And so what needs to happen to ensure that this kind of performance doesn't happen against slightly better teams on the road in Vietnam, on the road in College Station? They've got to be better on offense, and they've got to clean up this sloppiness, these penalties, because today they took points off the board. Today, your best players had penalties. Kelvin Banks had 2 holding penalties today, and I don't know if both of them or either of them were good calls. To be fair, on the first one, he kind of tripped and he stumbled into a guy's legs, and it kind of created he tackled a guy to the ground, which probably gets to count. I'm an old offensive lineman. It looked like a pancake to me, but if somebody wanted to turn around and say, did he tackle him below the knees? Well, yeah, he did. Boy, they just, there's just a level. What would we grade this on the A, B, C, D, F scale? What was today? Like a
C- because it's passing because you won the game?
C+? Here, do this, guys.
I can't go C+. I can't go C. It was 21-10 at the half. I can't go C+.
Give us your grade in the chat, in the specs chat right now. Help me, because I say C+, Chad says C-. It's a win. I'm just curious, where's everybody's vibe at right now? That way, Chad and I will know how you guys are feeling about things. So let's see your subjective grades right now.
Yeah, 10 for 108 is that final number in penalties, by the way. While we're getting those in, Catch, let's grab some super chats here. Thomas with a $5 super chat. Thank you, Thomas. Get Ewers off this team. Oh, good grief. We are done. Time to get Art some tune-up reps versus Florida. This team has no intermediate/deep passing game/threat. Wow. Okay, so Thomas is saying, Catch, it is time to roll the dice and play the backup.
Quinn Ewers was one of the, I think, good things about today, at least in the first half. In the second half, he throws for under 100 yards. His completion percentage really dips. Again, I think for me, the thing that stood out is Vanderbilt adjusted to Texas and eventually found them out. They figured them out. So now what is the bigger question that I have? And, do you change your quarterback? I'll be honest, man.
Catch, did you mute yourself? I'm not hearing you. Catch, I'm not hearing you. Hang on, hold on. All right, that's it, but no. All right, talk to me, Catch. For some reason, all of a sudden, I cannot hear you, and I don't believe the people are hearing you either. Very strange. Yeah, I saw your mute thing pop up. I unmuted you immediately, but I don't hear you. That is weird. I do not know. Do you want to try to jump out and back in and see if that does it? That is so odd. I heard the dogs a little bit and thought you may have muted for that, but then I just wasn't hearing you. Okay. All right, let's try that. We'll see if Catch can jump back in. That was very strange. All right, we are seeing those super chats come in, and I'm going to be marking those while Catch is jumping back in. Again, we'll get Anoir on from the stadium. Angry Hammer, we see that $20 super chat. We do appreciate it. Let me make sure we're getting all these marked. so we can get to them. Let's see about Catch here. Catch, talk to me. And I don't hear you. Oh, my. What is going on?
I don't know. Very Can you strange. Hear me?
Oh, now I got you. Whatever
Chad,
it was.
I don't know what to say about that. I got put into mute jail.
I don't know what happened.
I kept clicking, and it wouldn't unclick. But, hey, we're back.
Okay.
I saw the Angry Rooster had a super chat, right?
Angry Hammer had. I wish we had an Angry Rooster in the. If somebody could be the Angry Rooster, that'd be good. Angry Hammer did have a $20 super chat, so big money goes up to the top. Thank you, Hammer. Yikes! Play like this the next couple games, and I might owe Lowy an apology.
So real quick, Chad, I'm adding it up right now. Just bear with me for a second, okay?
Okay. All right.
I'm looking up Ewers' final numbers in the second half because I do feel like this conversation ultimately comes down to what do you want to focus on? Do you want to focus on in the first half the fact that he was a 200 level quarterback, really good.
I'm telling you what, Catch. Here's the biggest theme of this year might be don't play Texas in a second quarter.
Let me give you Ewers' second half numbers, okay?
Okay.
He's 8 of 16 for 75 yards and an interception with a 76.7 quarterback rating.
Oh, Lord.
So every bit as good as the first half was, where he's 19 of 21 for 211 yards and 3 touchdowns. In the second half, he's 8 of 16 for 75, no touchdowns, an interception, and a quarterback rating that's nearly 3 times lower than it was in the first half. I don't know. How do you – I got to be honest. Now that the numbers are final, I have to almost rethink what I was going to actually say about this performance. There's a part of me that was like, you know what? You got to give some benefit of the doubt here. It was the first half was so good. And in reality, that wasn't the case. In reality, the overall performance was okay. I don't know. Again, what do you focus on? Do you focus on the first half that ultimately won Texas the game, or a second half where the offense clearly just didn't do enough? And that does extend to the run game.
Yeah. That
extends to the offensive line. There's a lot to unpack there, but there's no getting around the fact that it was a tale of two halves for Ewers. And I think that there are going to be some people who only focus on the second half. And I don't know, Chad, what are we talking about for the next 2 weeks?
I think you're talking about, honestly, I think you're kind of getting into some of that football math from fans. The theme that we're getting so far, it's that this won't be good enough in another game kind of thing. I think it's one of those games, Catch, where all you're certain of tonight is that Texas was better than Vanderbilt. In the end, it was 3 points better than Vanderbilt.
Who was number 25 in the country coming into the game?
Yes, and the other part, Catch, is the theater that we watched earlier in the season. This is not some shock venue. This is not some surprise team. Nobody was introduced to Diego Pavia today. That Bama game having happened matters. And that's why I would be extra upset if I'm a Texas fan. This isn't a sneak up and get you kind of Bama team. This is a team that took Bama and went 42 minutes up and down the field. And you knew it was going to be tough. And you played a half a game to deal with it. That's what would piss me off if I was a fan. So I think that's what we're going to be talking about, trying to find 4 quarters, because Texas fans deep down know that if they put those 4 quarters together again, certainly in the road games, but maybe even in the home games, Catch, they're going to find themselves in closer games than they want to be in.
Well, you'll lose games before this final 4 SEC regular season games are over with if you did this again.
Exactly, right? Florida probably beats them. If they go 10 penalties for 108 and 2 touchdowns result in 14 points the other way. If I tell you that happens in another game, I mean, you're not going to guarantee me Texas loses, but you're going to be concerned because you can't do that.
But I think my bigger concern is not 60 minutes of football today.
Okay.
It's the offense wasn't really good against Oklahoma. It wasn't good last week against Georgia. And then it was really putrid for the final 2 quarters against Vanderbilt. They're just and oh, by the way, the team as a whole was so sloppy. Yeah. But a side of the ball that we're talking about, look, when the season started, there were people who were legitimately saying, you know what, we don't miss Xavier Worthy and Adonai Mitchell and Jordan Whittington at all. And today, the wide receiver position, DeAndre Moore, who, boy, again, he was kind of like the offense at tell of 2 halves. He finishes with 6 for 97 and 2 touchdowns. Most of that comes in the first half. But then, Wingo's 3 for 20 and Silas Bolden's 2 for 31 and Matthew Golden's 2 for 9. And when you add that up, I mean, they're not getting explosive plays. And that was the feature of this offense. And, Trey Wisner, I thought played pretty good, but at the end of the day, he's rushed for 4.6 yards per carry. Jaden Blue is 4.7. They're just stuck in a little bit of an offensive rut.
Overall catch yards per carry for the team, 3 point something. What was the overall?
Yeah, once you take in the Ewers minus 20 yards on sacks. So as a team, it ends up being 34 carries for 104 yards, 3.1 yards per carry.
Gotcha. Okay. We are getting some super chats piling in here. Hang on one second there, Hammer. Let's get some of these. Just had a couple come in. So $10, I believe, is the high number right now. Let's go to Jingle Stick. All right, $10. I'm done on Ewers as well. He is accurate, but too much second guessing. 2 of the sacks, it was extremely obvious he couldn't decide. Also, some of the tip balls would pump faking avoided them. One thing I would say, Catch, we know from the narrative that's been laid out these last few weeks with the offense you're talking about, plus what happened in the game against Georgia. Yeah, it's going to be those 2 home environments coming up with Florida and Kentucky. It could get weird if Quinn and the offense have bad moments, have slow, kind of sluggish moments. That crowd's going to get strange. We're getting folks in the chat that they're just, they're not liking it, but some of them are specifically focusing in on Quinn. So there you go.
It's a chicken and egg deal, Chad, in the sense that I think for me, the biggest part of the offense's problem right now is that it is operating in a phone booth. It is everything is within 5 to 7 yards of the line of scrimmage. And by the end of the game, you were really seeing Vanderbilt DBs daring Texas to do anything but throw the short ball. And Texas really didn't. They continued to throw the short ball. In fact, Anoir Richardson and I kind of got into an argument on our team's channels in the third quarter because I thought on a third down play that he throws a fastball to Wisner that probably was going to be short of the first down marker anyway. Wisner doesn't catch the ball. It was like eye level. It was a ball he could have caught, I guess, but it was I thought one that was tough. The thing that I noticed though about the play was that the next layer down in the passing game, Helm was streaking wide open. And so to me, that was throw that ball down the seams in that 6. Anwar and I were bickering about, he was like, he threw a ball to Wisner and Wisner should have caught it. And my whole point was true, but although I did give Wisner some benefit of the doubt in saying that it was a tough ball to catch, but the throw should have been down the field. Mm-hmm. And we're just not getting enough of those. And Sarkeesian said it on Monday. When the plays do make themselves available, Quinn has to hit those. I think there were some of those available in the second half, and he didn't. But he was excellent in the first half. And this was a Texas team that goes into halftime up by double digits, on pace to score 40-plus points. And in the second half, the offense just shuts down. Now, is the issue of the offense and its inability to expand the area for which they're playing, is that Ewers' fault? Is he, if you took Ewers out and Arch in, do you suddenly gain the entire field? Are you suddenly more difficult to defend because of where the passing game suddenly goes? I think that is a conversation that people will have different mixed opinions on. I really thought Quinn played well in the first half, and I don't want to bash the kid at all, but there's no getting away that in the second half he was 8 of 16 for 75 yards, no touchdowns, an interception. He did hold the ball a little too long on a couple of plays. It's just not good enough. But I think that's true of the entire team. I don't think there are very many guys that get to hold their heads up high and say, I played the best level of football that I can play. I don't think Kelvin Banks can say that. I don't think Gunnar Helm or the wide receivers can say that. I think there are guys on the defensive side of the ball that could have played better, even if I thought the defense played pretty well. The special teams was just okay. Matthew Golden takes the opening kickoff out of the end zone for reasons that I can't really explain. The punt game's a little stuck in the mud. Silas Bolden slipped and fell. There was a lot of stuff going on tonight beyond the quarterback performance, but it's a quarterback sport, and we will talk about it because that's what we do.
Yeah, no doubt about it. The super chats continue to roll in. I'm seeing 17 super chats right now. Anoir coming up from the stadium as soon as he can jump in. Let's grab Jake here. Thank you, Jake, for $10 in a super chat. Weird game. Never felt truly in danger, but was never comfortable either. Felt like I was watching the Texans with the self-inflicted penalties. A win is a win, though. Hook 'em. Jake, definitely a win is a win. And on the other side of my Vanderbilt comment, the Bama Vanderbilt comment catch, I think the fact that Bama went and lost that game, you do have some comfort as a Texas fan. It is a win on some level. There's a 12-team playoff. It's not as much of a pageant. You got to just win ball games. They did. So you stamp it that way. That's why I can't give them an F. People are giving them F grades in the chat. An F is a loss to me. So I had to give it a passing grade because they won the damn ball game.
Some of this is what's our final memory of this game is Texas sloppily, that we're a penalty, and a really costly penalty. I mean, Vernon Broughton is out for the first 2 quarters of the next game.
That's big. God, that's big.
But that's suddenly a 34-17 game.
Yeah.
And it's like, what are you going to go? You're going to complain about 3 scores?
Yeah, because then catch it would have felt like some games we've seen Bama and Georgia win in these last few years. They've had those games where it's real tight, and then the final score just, it's different. You're like, okay, all right, just move on.
Yeah.
But this ends up as 3. So what are you gonna do? All right, so 20 super chats piled in there now. Jake, thank you very much for that one. We appreciate you. Let's find another one. Here's Sugar Poppy jumping back in, $10. Thank you, Sugar Poppy. At least we don't have to worry about our entire offensive line getting drafted this year, man. That was part of the sloppiness too, Catch. I'll be honest. I'd have to go back and watch the game for was every single holding call holding, was every single. But it did feel like when some momentum was there to be had, there was some offensive line, penalties that brought the team back. And that's something else you can't do on the road.
It's happened a lot. I mean, it's been a bit of a joke about, Cam Williams and his 2 penalties per game. And it's not funny anymore. That group really has to start doing a better job. By the way, Chad, I am double checking to make sure, just scrolling through, and looks like you've done a good job on starring the super chat. So if you want to stay in the super chats, I'll just keep looking for chats, and I'll add them to the pile as we go. We can double team on those.
Beautiful. We got a couple $20 ones that have come in. We'll get to here in a sec.
But yeah, I mean, look, I asked the question in my column, and has Cam Williams played himself into having to stay for another year? Because I saw him earlier this week listed as a first-round draft pick on ESPN, but he's not been good the last 2 weeks. So I wonder if in the end, does he come back for a senior year? Because he's collapsing at the end of this season. I think he's a guy that starting in 2 weeks has to play a lot better, or everything that maybe we thought about him from the first half of this season could be a little bit of a mirage.
All right. How about 1999 from Charles? Call me wrong, but Texas offense played kind of soft, not physical at all. Don't want to go over the top. Vandy didn't really respect the deep ball at all. Quinn is good, but he doesn't have that killer mentality at all. I felt like there was a whole, I don't know if I just put it on Quinn, Catch. It just felt like there was a whole lot of not killer instinct about the whole offense itself in that second half. Just kind of felt a little flat.
Some of this is on Steve Sarkeesian.
Yeah.
Either call a better game and get more out of your offense. And look, the sloppiness is a reflection of the coaching. If this were Tom Herman or Charlie Strong and this level of slop, I mean, boy, if Vanderbilt recovers an onside, I don't want to do the ifs and nuts and all that, right?
Right.
This is the 34-17 game. If not, for maybe the 6th or 7th least problematic penalty of the night. Yeah. There were a lot of them, and it was on both sides of the ball. And, they just – if that were not a Steve Sarkeesian team, if this was Charlie Strong or Tom Herman, we'd be saying, what the hell's going on with the discipline on the team? They're the number 5 team in the country. Steve Sarkeesian is now built up, benefit of the doubt. People aren't really leaning on that as much as they're leaning on the players. Like, I'm about to kill my dogs. I feel like I'm the Steve Sarkeesian of the household. Yes. Ultimately, it's my responsibility to not have barking dogs on the show, and yet I feel like it's somewhat out of my control. Chad, take me out while I go get in trouble with PETA, and I'll be right back.
Fair enough. Jeff Ketchum going to deal with some dogs, and we will get to some more of your super chats. Where you been? I see what you did there. 1999. I'm old enough to remember when folks said Sark couldn't win on the road. Now we're complaining about top 25 SEC wins. LOL. And I'm starting to think I don't know what holding is. Where you been? That's a good point. That's why I brought it up. I'd have to watch those again to see if everyone was holding. It felt like it was about half and half to me. Some I don't think should have got called. Some I thought, okay, you're gonna call that. And I don't know if it's complaining about the win part. Nobody's complaining about that. It's always weird when fans say it that way. I don't think anybody ever complains about a win, but there's stuff to dig into when you're the fan of the number 5 team in the country and you beat the number, 24-25, a team that's now going to duck back out of the rankings. When you beat them on the road like that, you're just going to have stuff to talk about. You are. It's kind of the way it is. But the point is made there. All right. Let's see. I don't see any $20, but I do see a couple $10 spots. How about Patrick with a $10? O-line was garbage at times today. Penalties killed us. Quinn looked hesitant and hung on to the ball too long. Offense looked good in the first half, but clearly regressed in the second. What's wrong? Patrick, that's kind of been the overall theme, I guess, of what we've discussed tonight. How do you keep momentum going? And I don't know, Catch, kind of to the complimentary football part of it as well. Like I said earlier, if you hold Vanderbilt at 10 the entire second half, different discussion. I mean, there's a different discussion to have.
I mean, they just didn't score enough points. If you're Texas, you can't score 6 points in the second half.
Yeah,
it's not good enough. In fact, I would argue that 13 points over the last 3 quarters of the game not good enough. So every aspect of the game not good enough. I don't know that there's anything that I would point to. I don't want to be too hard on the defense, but they did allow Vanderbilt to finish some drives. So as much as I thought the defense played a pretty good game, you got to finish better. So again, everywhere can be better. I think the focus will be on the offense. I don't know that that's unfair, but I don't have the answer because Sarkeesian is not going to pull Quinn Ewers.
No.
Does Isaiah Bond coming back healthy get this group going again?
It's interesting, Catch. You say that, and I had the same thought during the game, but think about the game DeAndre Moore had in the first half. Think about how Moore was being, obviously the great pass to Golden for that first touchdown. You had this feeling of, okay, and Gunnar Helm made a play or two, and it's like, okay. I didn't have that thought of, oh man, they are really missing Bond. But by the end of the game, I do wonder what Steve Sarkeesian might tell us about that. Like, how does seven lock that receiving core in a different way than all these other guys would? I don't know. I'm not sure.
I'm sorry. This offense needs somebody. The limitations of the quarterback's a problem. Quinn Ewers' specialty. And I'll be honest, this is going to sound like I'm bashing Quinn, but if I was an NFL team, I wouldn't want to touch Quinn with a 10-foot pole because he's kind of the opposite of an Anthony Richardson type where you'd get real excited because of the big physical tools and how aggressive they are. And look at this incredible throw he makes. Quinn it feels like he's way more talented to just be a system quarterback. That doesn't feel fair, but boy, there's just no getting around the fact we talked all week long about where he ranks nationally in yards in the air, the number of balls that go down the field, 20 yards or more. Texas ranks with Ewers on the field apocalyptically bad in those areas. That his yard, the ball in the air numbers, how far the ball travels per throw is the kind of stuff that you'd expect to see from Navy. Oh, they're throwing the ball 5 yards, 5 air yards per attempt. Yeah, that sounds like something that a limited quarterback at Navy would do. I thought, Chad, tell me this. When you watched the game today, knowing that we referenced that stat probably 10 times during the week, it was hard not to think of during the game, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, yeah. How far the ball was going down the field definitely was in fact, the second DeAndre Moore touchdown would be that ball traveling as far as it did. I felt pretty good about that one for Quinn and the offense. That one felt like it did push down the field a little bit. But yes, I was constantly thinking about air yards after seeing that stat.
Just felt like everything was behind the line of scrimmage or around the line of scrimmage or within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. And I think Vanderbilt just felt that. Their confidence in the second, it felt like there was a real speed advantage to the Texas offense versus the Vanderbilt defense early in the game. But it felt like Vanderbilt really adjusted to, okay, this is what you guys are going to do? Okay, we struggled with that early on, but now we know what you want to do. So now let's play. And in the second half, Vanderbilt was the better football team over 30 minutes. They outscored Texas 14-6. The Longhorns didn't get in the end zone. It's just got to be better. And I don't want to pin that all on the quarterback because he's a big part of it, but it's not the only thing.
$50 super chat from Paul. Thank you, Paul. $49.99. This game felt like first-year Sark, but the talent was too good, and we won. It seemed like when we had the O moving in the second half, especially with runs, strange play calling would stunt the drive, but SEC road wins are not what's the rest of that? SEC road wins are nothing to dismiss. Certainly not, Paul. A win is a win. We've said that, and find a way to win by one every week is obviously the whole point. But it is –
Ask Alabama.
Yeah,
they
absolutely.
look really good today, and I don't know how much it matters.
Yeah. Catch, would you agree with Paul's assessment? First year Sark, is it fair to go back to 2021 with how you felt about the offense today?
God. Well, no, because first year Sark had Bijan and Roshan in the backfield. So
yeah,
what this team's able to do right now from a running game standpoint is different. Now, did he lean into that all the time? No. Was the quarterback play in combination with the running game something that needed to be better? Yeah. Like there were those offenses in 2021 needed help. Obviously, the quarterback play in the back half of 2021, once Casey Thompson hurt the thumb, it never quite hit the heights, to be fair, of Casey Thompson against bad teams. You know, he plays against Rice, he plays against Oklahoma, and that defense puts up big numbers. Not exactly a huge sample size that would tell us that overall there was anything other than a mirage. The rest of his career kind of lets us know that, you know, maybe the thumb wasn't the big problem or just a problem. I don't know. That thought didn't cross my mind. Mainly because that offense did have Xavier Worthy, if nothing else. And so you always felt like that threat scared the crap out of defenses, right? Xavier had 12 touchdowns as a freshman. Today, I can't stress enough, as well as DeAndre Moore played, Ryan Wingo had no impact. Matthew Golden caught less than 10 yards receiving, although that was a hell of a catch he made in the end zone. Silas Bolden makes one big play, but I thought we would be seeing more of him. This offense isn't getting its wide receivers involved in the passing game enough. Why? I mean, that's the question that Steve Sarkeesian has to answer, and he's got to ask himself, what do we need to do? Because this receiving core is supposed to be one of the best in the country. And they haven't looked like that in the last couple of weeks. Georgia, you could give a pass to. This game, you can't. This was a pass defense that came into this game close, 86, 89, something like that, in terms of pass defense efficiency rating. And Texas, in the second half, made them feel like they were playing their own defense.
All right. I believe a $20 one just comes in. Jingle stick. Good timing. $20. Horns, as of right now, how many games will we win/lose the remaining of the schedule? All part of the general theme, I think, here. Catch about.
I don't know how to answer that question, Chad.
I mean, 4 games left, right? So
they will lose another game if they don't get better. Now, yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't quite. The good news is this team gets a week off. It's another week for Quinn to get a little bit healthy, if that is an issue at all. Maybe it gets Isaiah Bond healthy. Maybe they get back a little bit more. I don't know. This team didn't put together a full 60 minutes today, but they really didn't put together anything more than 30. It was a tale of two halves, and if we would give a C+ for the entirety, C+, C-, if we met in the middle, Chad, and made it a C.
Mm-hmm.
We would probably say that C is comprised of an B+, A- in the first half, but a D or a D- in the second half.
Yeah, that's probably fair. Fair.
And then it's the thing that you remember is the last thing that happened. So Texas fans are going to remember that for the last 30 minutes of this game, that was a D-level performance. And, you know, those things, it's like having a great night. And then, like, a dog gets hit out in front of the neighborhood. And it's like, well, no matter how good the rest of the night was, the thing we remember is the last thing that happened. in this instance, the dog that got hit in the street was the Texas offense.
Yeah.
By a Vanderbilt defense that wasn't exactly anything more on paper than a moped.
Jingle, I think you would be looking at 3-1 and maybe 2-2 for the last 4 if they're going to look like that for the especially if that second half version starts to bleed into the rest of the game. Another $20.
Chad, real quick.
Yeah.
I've thought that this team's floor for most of the season was 10-2. If they play like this, and that was Jingle, by the way, right? I'm just going back to the chat and looking.
Jingle, yeah. Uh-huh.
If they play like that more, 10-2 is not the floor. And I think that maybe is the scary thing about the win tonight is I feel like even the way I talk about this team is like, well, last week they used their mulligan. And, it's like there's this safety net around them. I even said, look, they could lose another game. And as long as they're 10-2, they're going to be in the playoffs. And now what are we really talking about? We're talking about seeding and the ability to either not play a game in that first weekend or playing at home. Tonight, for the first time, it dawned on me, 10-2 is not the floor if this is what it's going to look like.
Yeah, that's fair. I think that's absolutely fair. Oscar, super chat for $19.99. Same Texas team as last week. We just played a weaker team. O-line definitely a big problem, especially with penalties. Quinn not much better than last week. Need to wake Sark up. Needs to get on them. Catch, wouldn't we say, though, there was a section of this game where Quinn was a ton better than he was against Georgia?
Yes. I mean
come on, Oscar. If you get that Quinn for a part of Georgia, that's a different game, isn't it?
That's a hardcore thing to say.
Damn. Come on now.
Because look, trust me, if you'd been on our team's channel, you would have heard Anoir. He was giving us a play-by-play. It's 10 completions in a row and 15 completions in a row and 17 completions in a row. And it was like, yeah, man, he was 19 of 21 in the first half with 3 touchdowns.
You take that against Georgia? I think you would.
I'll take that in any game the rest of the season. Almost no further context needed. It's hard to be better than 19 of 21. 3 touchdowns.
Now, catch to where I would go to maybe Oscar's point. There were times where I watched the offense against this Vanderbilt defense, and I thought to myself, they look a little more comfortable this week. Pockets a little more open this week. And I thought, well, you're not playing the Georgia defense. So, Oscar, I had that thought, but I did not have it exactly the way you did. I did not see Quinn's performances even last week, this week. That's not how I saw it.
But as good as that first half was, the second half was poor.
Yeah.
Give me say it again. Final 30 minutes of that game, which is when Texas really should have been establishing its will, right? Take a double-digit lead. The other team has to press. You seize on that. You roll them. That's what really good teams do. And I still think this Texas team is really good. They just weren't tonight. And they weren't a week ago. And whatever that Oklahoma game is probably the beauty of the beholder. And kind of the same thing about Mississippi State 2 weeks before that. Quinn was 8 of 16 for 75 yards, 0 touchdowns. The team had 0 touchdowns in the second half. So it's not even like one of those things where they rushed it in twice. So he didn't get the touchdown passes, but the offense was still fine. It wasn't. The offense didn't score a touchdown in the second half. He had 1 interception. Again, you don't want to pile on him for the picks because I don't know that you can automatically point to him and say, you did the wrong thing. But the final number for him is 76.7 quarterback passing efficiency. And you know what that is, Chad? That's the pass efficiency rating that got him benched against Georgia.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's
when he got pulled out of the game against Georgia last week. He had a 73 quarterback rating at the time.
Yeah. So from that perspective, Oscar's not wrong. Like there was a part of the game where it was apples to apples with the whole Georgia performance. That's interesting. I wouldn't have thought of it that way, but I think that's good. That's a good way to see it. All right. 2,000 of you in the Specs chat. Anoir looks like he's just about ready to go from the stadium. Before we talk to him, let's let Lisa tell you about Specs. Thanks to Specs for their great partnership and the chat. And then we will get to Anoir.
Specs same-day delivery can save the day with our Specs app or online shopping. From world-class wines to hard-to-find spirits and craft beers to gourmet foods, delicious snacks, and spectacular sweets. It's Specs. Cheers to savings.
And don't worry, we will keep our eyes on those super chats as we're talking to Anoir. So we will be able to get those, get those once as we go through. And as we always do, we appreciate you for jumping in. And of course, we appreciate Anoir Richardson for joining us live from the stadium, live from Music City. Anoir, how we doing?
Good. Just finished talking to Sark and was able to come up here to the in the press box. I'm actually in the athletic director's suite, which is why you can see this nice wood grain behind me. So this is where Del Conte's crew is at. Sark basically, look, the one thing about Sark, when it comes to an ugly loss, ugly win rather, he won't apologize for it. Like it happened against Houston last year. He ain't apologizing. TCU, he's not going to apologize for it. In his mind, he said Vanderbilt was the 25th team in the country, and they were 25th for a reason. He talked about just going on the road. It's an SEC team. You got to win on the road. And so being able to pull off that win is something that he's happy about. He was happy. So I can tell you the things he was happy about, and then I can tell you about the things he was, unhappy about. Of course, he felt like when the day was done, he felt like the defense did, play well. He was really he said he was really happy with Quinn and Quinn's performance, and he said, at the end of it, he said if Quinn plays like this, like he played today, that they're going to be okay. He talked about he liked how Quinn responded after the tip interception, and he felt pretty good about that. He's got to go back because some of he really liked DeAndre Moore, thought he played incredibly well. He thought Silas Bolden played incredibly well. He liked Michael Taft, Jade Barron. He thought those guys really stepped up on the defensive side. The penalties were something that he did not like. He says he's got to go back and look at the film to get a better idea of how what those penalties were, like the Vernon Broughton one. He didn't feel like at the end of the day Vernon Broughton was trying to, go airborne or anything like that. So, he said this, some of the other ones are a little questionable. He said he may not probably agree with all of them, but at the end of the day, they're sitting at 7-1 going into the bye week with 4 games left. And at that point, he feels good about where his team is. He said we'd love to win them all. But sitting at 7-1 is not a bad situation and a bad thought for this team. So again, he'll go back, he'll look through everything. But overall, he felt pretty good just to come out of here and get the win.
Wow. Interesting there, describing the full Quinn Ewers performance as good. Ketch, you want to react to that, or do you want to get Anoir to tell us what Sark was like the negative side of it for him?
Anoir, what do you think our post-game show has sounded like tonight?
Oh, I guarantee, and with what do you guys? How long you in? An hour in? I guarantee it's been. Quinn did not play well, didn't look good in the second half, dinking and dunking, not moving the ball down the field, not stretching it. Only 6 points in the second half, and how that's probably not good enough. That would be my guess as far as what's been discussed without watching a single second prior to me getting in here.
Yeah. That's a good summation.
That's actually volleyball class.
Yeah, well done.
Anwar, well
Yeah.
done. Well done.
Good call. Good job, Anwar.
It's
You
like
do
you've
know.
been watching us the entire hour. I asked Anwar because I feel like Chad and I have been voices of reason isn't fair, but I think we've been very much team Quinn was exceptional in the first half. Second half, not good enough. But on the whole, definitely some stuff to feel good about because that first half was so good. And it does feel like the response in the chat and the super chats has been, y'all need to shut the hell up because the lynch mob is here and we are coming for Quinn. And it's been stronger than I thought it would be. But maybe I shouldn't be surprised. You're not.
No, but here's the quote, because I'm going to tell you the question that was asked, okay? And here's the direct question. The question was, the version of Quinn that you got tonight, is that good enough, in your view, to achieve the goals that you have this season? And if so, how do you get that out of him every week? And this is what Sark says. He goes, I think he played really well. If he plays like that the rest of the year, we're going to be okay. We're going to be just fine. Said bad luck on those tip balls. So there was that. I think I know how to keep just instilling confidence in him and believing in himself. He goes, I think he should be able to do that. He goes, you can't get much worse than how it went for him last week, especially in that first half, and his ability to bounce back and show that resolve that he showed. He goes, I always say that the sign of true character of a man is when they face adversity. And there was a lot of adversity for him. He goes, there was a lot of adversity for us as a team coming off last week's win. He goes, I think the way he responded was kind of indicative of how we responded as a team. So like I said, if we can get that version of Quinn for the rest of the way, we'll be okay. That's emphatic. Right. That's emphatic. That's not, we can see some improvement. He's like, yo, we get this, we're good. We're good. I am good with this. And he's good with it. There's this thing now, Catch, I think, where when it comes to a Texas fan, it's almost like your opinion doesn't matter because he really wants this guy as his quarterback. He's not going to make a change with 4 games remaining in the season. He will get Quinn to the finish line. And overall, he looks at certain things that happened and he doesn't look at it. He doesn't necessarily see the dinks or the dunks. He thinks offensive line penalties and costly penalties and, other guys making costly penalties at different times and maybe needing a little bit more out of the run game. And he looks at the other things, but when it's all said and done, he's looking at Quinn and saying, it's okay. I'm okay with it. And look, to his defense, to a little bit, Catch, Quinn is in a state where he needs confidence. And the last thing that that guy can probably use, especially a week after getting benched, is his coach coming out saying, you know what, that second half wasn't good enough. That's probably not going to work for him. And I think Sark knows that. So in some ways, what he tells us may be a little bit different what he says about his team, but I think he's more concerned about Quinn's confidence and making sure that guy feels good so he can be first half Quinn more so than anything else.
Catch, you want to grab some super chats here, or do you want Anwar to give us the kind of the other side of Sark's comments?
Let's take a few super chats, and then we'll circle back around and get that.
Okay. Speaking of maybe the other side of things, we did have one in here. Actually, we'll grab Oscar real quick. Oscar, no reason to apologize. We are glad that you put another super chat in, but you didn't need to apologize for anything. Hey, you're just breaking it down the way you saw it. Thank you for the 1999. And we talked about part of your breakdown was dead on, depending on kind of how you looked at it. All right, $10. There was one on the defense here, fellas. Where is it? Here it is. This is Angry Hammer back in with 10. Was the lack of sacks a Pavia thing or a crappy pass rush thing? They got what? 4 sacks to our 0? Was that the final number? Was it no sacks and then 4 on the other side? Catch, you have that in front of you?
My screen is. I'm going to come back in, guys. So either hold that thought or I'll be right back.
Texas, Vanderbilt had 4 sacks. Texas did not have any.
Okay, so that was the final number. I did not realize for some reason that
Let me see, though. Let me see how many. And they did give Texas credit for 4 quarterback hurries. And Vanderbilt got credit for 2 quarterback hurries. But then Vanderbilt did get there with the sacks overall. They did get there with the 4 compared to Texas with the 0. Correct.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, Pavia is a tough guy to get on the ground. Anoir, I really.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing too, when you get outside of the sacks too, Chad, like they did force him out the pocket to make some really moronic throws especially towards the end. So some of those balls he were throwing up, I mean, you're just like, dude, why'd you throw that up? And so while they didn't take him to the ground, they did force him to make some really bad throws toward the end. They probably have a chance to really put this game away until that Vernon Broughton targeting thing, occurs. So I get what he's asking about the thing. I would say it's a little bit more on Pavia, but I do think there was some pressure on him.
Yeah. Anoir, did you agree with the targeting in the end?
Those things are tough, man. Those things I'll be honest with you. I don't think I agree with most targeting calls, Chad.
Yeah,
I
don't either. I don't either.
The majority of them is not the football we grew up with, is because it's such a split second bang bang kind of play. And then when that happens, like a lot of times a guy, we saw it in Georgia when there was a targeting call. I think it was last week, and a guy crouches down, and then all of a sudden now it happens so fast. So I didn't necessarily agree with that. Officiating this year, can I say this real quick? Officiating this year, I have never been this guy. I've never been this guy, but when I've watched officiating throughout the college football, it makes me wonder like how many people are on the take. I wonder how many people are getting checks, man, or getting some brown paper bags. Because I'm watching some of these things. I'm like, man, I don't know what the line is, but I know you're responsible for this one.
I haven't had a chance to go back and look at it closely, so I guess I could ask it this way. Based on what you've seen in college football nowadays, were you surprised they called targeting?
Definitely not surprised that they called targeting. Absolutely not surprised. I didn't agree with the call, but no, I mean, anything's questionable and there's helmet to helmet. They're called, it's close like that. They're calling targeting, but it's a lot of suspect calls out there this year, man. I'm just saying there's some people that are going to get some money through Bitcoin. No one's going to know how it got there. They're going to have a Bitcoin account or some sort of crypto account, and all of a sudden it's going to come in mysteriously how they get paid. Just saying.
Yeah. No, I got you. All right, let's see if we can get Catch back in here. I believe he is there. There he is. All right, Catch, are you good?
Hope,
cross fingers.
Between the dogs and the internet, it has not been awesome, but it's a little bit like the Texas performance, like better first half than second half.
Between the dogs and the internet, sounds like a bad country song. All right, let's get another super chat in here and continue the conversation with Ben 999. Defenses have figured Quinn out. Take away the short, quick passes and dare him to beat you deep. Arch poses a bigger threat than Quinn. Quinn is a check down king. The 17 completions were mostly check.
I mean, here's the deal. At the end of the day, I think he went deep maybe a couple of times, but not too often. I'd have to go. It'll be interesting when the chart comes out. Someone will have it on. You can probably at some point tomorrow and chart, where those plays were. But yeah, I mean, he's not that. That's kind of it, right? Yeah, I mean, you're 100% right. He's not. I don't know if it's just because Quinn doesn't want to make the interceptions or make those throws, the bad throws. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I'm probably more concerned about the tip balls than anything else. But that's not, I know that's not within the super chat. But yeah, it's everything is kind of side to side. A little to here, a little dump here, a little to here. At the end of the day, what's crazy about it, though, I mean, it still ends up with nearly 300 yards passing when it's all said and done. So what is it? 288, 3 touchdowns, and 200 interceptions. So at the end of the day, it gets you nearly over 300. I mean, nearly 300. Excuse me, without going in that way. So I think Sark's okay with it.
Just in the second half, he's 8 of 16 for 75 yards. So what ended up happening is that Vanderbilt did, the thing is, not throwing the ball down the field doesn't mean throwing go routes and heaving it all the time. That's not what I think Texas needs to do. That's not even what Quinn does well. So, if you're in the chat or you're thinking about the performance and you're like, they got to throw caution and win and like really throw the deep ball. That's not what Quinn does well. But they've got to be able to throw the ball down the field in ways that Quinn does feel comfortable. You think back to his best balls, the one that always will stick out in my mind, the Jatavian Sanders against Oklahoma in the 49-0 game, where he throws that ball down the seam, shows off that arm and the trajectory of the ball, and you're like, holy smokes, he can do that. Those types of throws are missing in the offense right now. We're not even seeing the seam routes with we didn't see any of them with Helm tonight. They've got to find a way to extend the passing game beyond 5 yards and in from the line of scrimmage. And they've got to find a way to do that without being there's no reason to be mix this in with hyperbole. That doesn't have to throw it for, when we say extend the field, throw the ball down the field, it doesn't necessarily mean 40 yards all the time. There's a lot of area within 40 yards and 5 yards. And if they can hit some of those areas, this offense will be more dangerous. Teams won't be able to sit on what they're doing. Because Anoir, I think the most alarming thing for me is by the end of the game, Vanderbilt corners were sitting on the short stuff. And it was like almost as if they were saying, we've got you figured out. Do something else. And I wonder if Texas had played 30 more minutes, how much would have changed. It felt like Texas was kind of out of ideas. And that's one of the things that's got to change. That's as much on Sarkeesian as it is the quarterback. He's the guy. If this is his quarterback, he's got to find a way for the offense to have some of these other things. And, he's got 2 weeks to get it a little bit better. They're number 5 in the country. They won tonight. It was a true SEC road game. Enjoy that component of it. And I think everybody gets it. This team at every level has to be better moving forward.
Ben, thank you for that $9.99 on the super chat. Let's go grab another one here. Thomas with a $5 super chat from earlier. Get Ewers off this team. Wait, hold on. No, we did that. No, wait a minute. Sorry, we did that one. I wish it was the only one that had that, but
I was going to say, how could you tell that was the same one?
I'm so sorry. $4.99. This is bordering on the angriest I've been after a win. This is reminiscent of 21 and 22. Sark, great first, crap second. Anoir, James brings up something that somebody else put in a super chat earlier about it reminding them of 2021. Is that fair to what you saw tonight?
They finished 5-7. There's nothing about 7-1 going into a bye with 4 weeks left, and the team's already bowl eligible, competing for a playoff spot. That reminds me of 5-7. Like nothing.
They were in the middle of a 6-game losing streak at this exact moment in 2021, and we had guys in NIL deals abandoning ship. Like, it's a little different.
Yeah,
I mean, I think Sark said something like, I think he pointed out that he said something. He said they've won like 9 straight road games or something, if I remember correctly. So it's not the same. It's not the same.
Anoir, before we get another super chat, I did want to ask you. I know you went over some of the things Sark talked about, some of the stuff that he liked about the game. Did you go over the other side of it yet? Is there some stuff that he would, in terms of things to work on?
I mean, I did. Yeah, I did talk about the things he didn't like, but I can revisit it if you'd like. Sure.
Okay. I guess because we've had the discussion in the chat has also just been about the next 4 games. You know, the old thing about this is not going to be good enough in that game or whatever. So out of the stuff that he really focused on to work on, things that he wants to get better, like what jumped out at you as you look forward?
Oh, the penalties is egregious at this point. I know he said he'll go back and he'll look at the film, and he said there'll probably be certain things we agree with. There'll be certain things that we probably don't agree with, right? And so we'll go and see it. But at the end of the day, there's 2 things. First of all, they at the end of the day they were penalized 10 times for 108 yards. That's just on the road. Like that's just crazy, right? That's just crazy talk to have that many penalties. And what's really, I think, alarming is that the offensive line is committing penalties that at this stage of the game, they shouldn't be doing. Now, this is an offensive line that started off at the beginning of the year and before the season and in the start of the season, talking about how they wanted to win the Joe Moore Award to be the best offensive line in the country. And the mental errors that they are making consistently, especially on big runs, so you're just like, what the hell just happened here? So for me, like that's the concerning part, is that the penalties are occurring. They're occurring at untimely times. Gunnar Helm's second straight week where he's had a penalty, and it's like, okay, I mean, but the offensive line itself, those penalties that those guys who are veterans are committing at this point, that's probably to me concerning, because I don't know, because some guys are getting the best of them on some plays, and now all of a sudden they're getting a little antsy, they're getting a little holdy, like all those kind of things. Yeah, those are probably things I would say more so than anything else. Penalties, I'd have to go and check and see where they rank, but I know it's not good.
No, it can't be. And Ketch, you mentioned earlier about Kelvin Banks getting those 2 penalties, and without getting into the discussion of was it this penalty or that penalty, it does suck when your best players are committing those penalties. When you go on the road and you have too many penalties for too many yards and some of your big dogs are doing it, that's just deflating for a team. Fans obviously hate to see it. That's got to be deflating for a team as well.
I think most deflating is that this would have been a point of emphasis this week. They did this kind of a lot of this from tonight. This was the stuff against Georgia. And we said, well, it was against Georgia talent, and they won't play anybody like that again the rest of the season. But a lot of the same stuff popped up again tonight. And the penalties, on where I mentioned it earlier, the whole Cam Williams is good for 2 penalties a game. Ha, ha, ha. Isn't that funny? Like, that shit ain't funny anymore. The 2 penalties a game thing is killing the team. And Cam Williams was mentioned by ESPN this week as a possible first-round draft choice. The last 2 weeks, I have myself wondering, is he playing himself back into, you know what, he needs another year? Maybe not. I don't know. Tonight he was pretty awful. Kelvin Banks had 2 penalties, and, it seemed like I thought he was better against Georgia than he was tonight. I actually thought Banks was pretty damn good against Georgia. But Hayden Connor had a penalty. Jake Majors it looked like beat pretty badly on, I think, one of the sacks that came from inside that felt like a jailbreak. And, I thought the TV crew tonight for the SEC Network did a real good job, Chad, of talking about breaking down the sacks in terms of their method of pass blocking is the slide step, and they'll just slide in directions, and it's very zone oriented. And they did a good job of when there were breakdowns tonight showing where there was a disconnect where one guy wasn't with the group doing the thing, and then that created some of the pressure problems. They would have all week long stressed, we have to be better. We can't make the little mistakes. We've got to stop committing penalties. We got to stop doing this and this and that. And in reality, they had another sloppy game. And going from one sloppy game and then spending the entire week saying, look, no matter what, no more pre-snap penalties, no more sloppiness. Let's stop beating ourselves and putting our quarterback in 3rd and long. And then it happened again. And it is really important to remember when we go over those Quinn Ewers second half stats, and they're not good. And his quarterback rating in the second half against Vanderbilt was exactly the same, within 4 or 5 ratings points of what got him benched against Georgia, which is wild to even think. But the offensive line was really struggling in the second half. They weren't able to consistently run the football. They were committing these penalties that were constantly – I thought Quinn Ewers' best moment of the night was the 3rd and 20 completion to Silas Bolden. But they had to be in 3rd and 20. And the thing about that particular play was the penalty pushed them pretty deep back into Texas territory. That 20-yard completion to Bolden that converts the first down, they end up not getting any points on the drive, and they end up punting, but they end up putting Vanderbilt on their own 17. And it was, one of the real only bright marks in the passing game in the second half was the play they made on 3rd and 20 that kept Vanderbilt from getting the ball at midfield and eventually at their own 17-yard line. Boy, that's like a moral victory if over the course of 2 quarters, the real big passing play, what it led to was slightly better field position once the eventual punt occurred. So it was a total group thing. And I throw Sark in there, and I throw Kyle Flood in there, and I throw that entire offensive coaching staff in there. When the offense is flying on all cylinders, it's like, God, this guy might end up being an NFL head coach one day because everybody wants all of this greatness. Well, when it's not so great, it's the same guy coaching, and the same guys coaching. They've got to get more out of these players. They've got to play better. It's not just about Quinn. Yes, Quinn has to play better, but that second half, that just was not a Quinn Ewers product. He was not the director, the writer, and the lead star. He had a playing point. Maybe he was the lead star. I don't know. But there was a lot going on that was a lot more than just him. And I think these will be a real interesting, not what they'll tell us, but for the next 2 weeks, what does this coaching staff think this team needs to improve the most on? Because they've got a little bit of time now to work on it. And you would hope that when you hit this last stretch of games to end the season, Anoir, that a lot of what has happened tonight and 7 days ago against Georgia will dissolve a little bit, because what the hell's the point of practice and trying to get better if you're doing bad things and then don't stop doing the bad things? So if we can immediately get to a point next week or in 2 weeks where they play a better game, have fewer penalties, play better in the second half, play good offense for 4 quarters, this will, in 2 weeks, tonight will feel like a distant memory. But, in real time and in a real moment, it feels like they're in the middle of something that they've got to shake out of.
Yeah, I mean, here's the hard part about everything that you've said, Kutch, because I'm about to say, I'm not disagreeing with you. But when you're 8 games into a season with only 4 games left, you kind of are who you are at this point.
No, that's fair.
Like there's only 4. I think you have revealed yourself as a team. You revealed yourself. Like it doesn't get, all of a sudden, okay, now we got to coach these guys up a little bit more, and then we'll get it more. No, it is who they are. You are who you are at week 8. Like you pretty much are who you are. There's not a ton of things that you can do in season to improve, because in season the practice is focused on the game plan. That's what in-season practice is focused on. It's not working on technical things. It's not working on tackling or taking guys to the ground. That's what the spring is for, right? That's what the winter is for. That's what spring is for. That's what summer is for. That's what training camp is for. It's all the technical stuff. Everything in the week is saying, here's our plays that we're going to run against this team. Let's practice those plays. That's all we're doing. We're just practicing plays, and we're trying to get it down, making sure everyone's on the same page. That's it. And so that's why you see a repeat of these things, right? Because you don't have time when you're trying to put in the Vanderbilt installation, and you don't have necessarily time when you're trying to do the Georgia installation. And sure, next week you could say, well, it's a bye week. Sure, they're going to go out. The coach is going to go out recruiting. Like they're going to go out recruiting. They're all going to have to hit the road and go recruit. So there's only so much you can do. And by the time they come back over the weekend, then it's going to be, let's do Florida. So that's why I'm not disagreeing with the premise of what you're saying, but knowing what the practice is like, you just kind of are who you are at this point.
So Anoir, let me ask you, you're right. And you know what? I'll just, for the sake of how right you are, if I concede the point, yeah, you know what? They kind of are who they are. What is your current right now feeling for how this season ends for Texas? Where? How? In what fashion?
I think Arkansas and A&M are problematic. I think those are problematic. Kentucky could be, but I don't believe in their offense, right? So because of that, Florida's a little bit of a wild card for me, and because I just don't know what to expect. Like they're slightly above average, would you say, Catch? Is that fair to categorize them? So they're probably in the Vanderbilt conversation as far as.
Are you 11-1, 10-2, 9-3?
10-2.
And how far into the playoffs do you think they go?
Maybe around.
Okay.
Maybe around.
Okay.
So I right now I see, and again, I'm not wishing it. Like I clearly want the opposite, right? Yeah. But it's, I think, going, especially if we saw what Arkansas did today, right? I mean, they were a machine today.
I was like, Georgia, Texas, this is how you beat up on Mississippi State.
That's what you're supposed to. They were a buzzsaw today, and A&M. I don't know what the A&M score is. I'm sure Chad knows at this point, but they're a decent. They're a good team. So those are, and that'll be on the road. I think those will be kind of the problematic ones where I think I go. Arkansas is don't have to tell me Arkansas is dangerous.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, guys, you want to grab some super chats here?
Sure thing.
Tom G with a $10 super chat. Quinn was not the biggest negative part of the game tonight, in my opinion. I think it was the crappy O-line play. We have regressed in this area. Do you agree? There have been some chatters in there tonight, fellas, talking about Kyle Flood and the O-line. Catch, you mentioned it as, maybe it's, you got to spread the blame all around. But in terms of what you guys saw, Anoir, biggest issue, the O-line play for you for offense?
Yeah, I mean it's definitely an issue, right? I mean, I don't think we can deny that. Because they have not played their best for the second straight week. This is in the same offensive line that was supposed to go against a really good Michigan defense it just a few weeks ago, which it seems like an eternity ago. They were dominant in that, right? And then now we see the same one. You just don't see it as much. So yeah, I would say you need that's a little bit of a concern going forward, but more so not just the play also includes the penalties. That's the other portion for me. It's not just, well, did they play bad or not? It's the penalties that's involved in that. That has something to do with it. And at the end of the day, Catch, I was looking this up, and I think if I could find it again real quick. Catch, you and I both know that Sark prides himself in having 1,000-yard backs. I think I looked it up during the show, and I'll have to look it up again. I think there's only been 2 times this season where a running back has rushed over 100 yards.
I thought Wisner would get there tonight, and then it didn't happen.
Yeah, going into this game, fellas, if my math was right, Wisner was going to need 134 a game to get it in the regular season. Obviously, there could be playoff games there, but that 1,000 yards for one guy is feeling further and further away.
Chad, to answer.
Hold on. I think here to go. It was Jaden Blue had 124 yards against La Monroe, and Wisner had $118 against Oklahoma. And that's the only 2 times this season that Texas has had a running back that rushed over 100 yards in a game.
Okay.
And Chad, real quick, just to answer Tom G's question before we move on to the next question, I think for me it's offensive scheme or offensive identity. If this is who Texas is on offense, they'll lose in College Station like that. They will not beat A&M if and that game in Fayetteville is really scary. They have got to figure out how to diversify this offense by any means necessary. Because what they're doing, forget about players, what they're doing as an offense and what the restrictions that they're playing with right now make it really hard to beat good teams. And they almost, I don't know what the hell to call Vanderbilt, but, they weren't really in any danger tonight. But that will change before this season is over if this offense can't be a little more dynamic than it's been really for like the last month or so. This is not a 1 or 2 game issue. This extends back even before Quinn came back. So, they feel vulnerable in ways that I didn't think they were vulnerable offensively even just 2 weeks ago.
Tom, thank you for that super chat. We got more that we're getting to. We appreciate you guys for that. How about Barb's 10, $9.99? Both Moors showed up to play. Penalties sound like complaining, but they can directly affect the game. Refs need to be held accountable. See my $5 super chat from earlier. Thanks for the TCH social hang, Chad. Barb's 10, it was great to see you once again. And thank you for coming out and checking out the watch party. Both Moores playing well. Obviously, DeAndre Moore had a great first half. And fellas, Trey Moore did have a couple big plays in this game. The knocking down the ball on, I think it was a 3rd down play that looked like a low-lay interception for a second, which would have been really cool. But he knocked that one away, and then he covers the fumble later in the game. So Trey Moore actually making a little bit of an impact on a game. As far as the officiate, it sounds like maybe Barb's 10 sent us something about officials in this game. Anoir, you were there. Anything feel, I don't know, weird to you, strange to you? Conference need to look into it to you? I mean, was there any of that tonight?
No, I just said overall, Chad. I said overall that it just in all of college football, I feel like there's referees on the take. That's all I said. Remember when I said that?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Chad keeps asking me to repeat things I've already said, but that's okay.
No.
This is the second time Chad has asked me to expand on a topic that I literally spent 3 minutes talking on, but it's okay, Chad. It's okay.
No.
I can talk about it again.
No, you got to look at it in 2 different ways. It wasn't that I was asking you to talk about something you'd already talked about, which I guess technically I was. I was asking you to talk about something that the super chatter's talking about. Like Barb's 10
Well, can I be
apparently
honest? I don't.
is talking about officiating.
I can't think of a penalty that I was like horrified about. What are we upset about? What
I'm gonna find this earlier super chat. Hang on, hold on. Okay, hang on.
I mean, I don't.
So 499 from earlier, has the O-line regressed, and why are they the only team that is holding? Some legit, but I think flags are on clearance
on
in
the
Nashville.
First Banks hold, he stumbles and tackled a guy. Like it, I told you, I'm an old offensive lineman. It was a pancake to me. But did he, in trying to, he just tackled the guy below the legs. It was a hold. Like there weren't any of those for me where when it was over with, I was like, oh my God, I wish, Chad and I had a conversation this week about, does there need to be a super challenge where you can challenge no matter what the officiating call is, you can challenge one a game because you think it's that bad. And I don't remember any passing. I don't remember anything that I don't remember the second Banks hold. So maybe it's like, oh, Banks got called for 2. And so I don't really remember the second one all that well, but there were pre-snap things going on. Everything that was called on Cam Williams looked right to me. I don't know. There are weeks when it's like, and last week was one of them. I kind of thought the SEC officials sucked last week. This week, I didn't really have an issue with them.
Yeah, I didn't either.
I had an issue with bad play. Guys just committing penalties. Let's not do that thing where we shoot the messenger, which in this case would be the officials. Texas did commit a lot of penalties tonight.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, I mean, 10-108 is horrible anywhere, but on the road, you pack that in your suitcase, that's a bad idea. Angry
Hammer one real quick, right? That's last 80 seconds of the game. Oh, it wipes out a pick 6, and you lose your best defensive tackle for the first 2 quarters of the next game. And I know I've seen some people, he launched himself like it's going to get called every time. Can't launch your head into the quarterback's head. They don't like that.
Anoir, brace yourself because this super chat was meant for Jeff Ketchum. Here it comes from Angry Hammer, $10. Has Sark learned his lesson about needing a punter yet?
Probably not. Probably not. But, by the way, LSU with a long touchdown. Late second quarter, distracted by, that was like 80 yards, 76 yards. Sorry. And sorry, Chad. Especially in the event that I'm ahead of you for any reason, and I spoiled that for you. Didn't cost them the game. The punter is not costing them games, but they're not good at punting.
They averaged 36.3 yards a punt catch. 36 with a long of 42. I mean, and that's off of 4. That's off of 4 tries.
The problem is Texas went into this season and we're not going to ever punt. Well, you're going to get yourself into games now the rest of the season where it happens. And you're giving up field position every time it happens.
Do y'all remember that?
It was a bigger deal last week than it was this week because Georgia was getting 50 yards a punt from their punter and Texas wasn't. But, I'll be honest, though, Angry Hammer, that's down my list of things. I mean, I made a note about it in my Incident Analysis article, but I'll trade some bad punting if they just stop committing all these penalties.
Well, you guys remember the sequence where Texas was just on their side of midfield and they gave Vanderbilt the ball back on their side of midfield?
Well, that was the worst moment of the night.
I happened to look down at my phone and look up and couldn't figure out. I'm having to ask people around me, like, wait, did Texas punt?
But to be fair to Michael Kern, Chad, that's like the first time that's happened.
Okay.
He worked 8 games. I know he missed a couple of games, but so far this season, I don't remember Kern having a horrible shank until tonight.
Yeah, that's terrible. Just
But it
absolutely
was a horrible shank. It was.
That's not good. Not good. All right. Making our way through the super chats. We appreciate you guys checking it out. $4.99 from Jordan. Last few weeks, it seems like the offense shells up after we get a little lead. Was 21-10 at the half. Just 2 field goals in the second half.
Anoir, I think we know this about Sark. He's at his best typically early in games. We know that his opening scripts are sometimes incredibly dynamic. I think that since Sark has been here, it's been a little bit of a trend that the second halves, and especially if you want to go back to 2021 and the early part of 2022, and Texas wasn't holding leads, and it felt like, in a number of games that they lost that first year, they had double-digit leads that they lost. I think one of the things that Sark, it's his responsibility, it's his offense. They got to be better in the second half, and it's too easy to point the finger at all the players. It's a Steve Sarkeesian production, and I do think if there are little itty bitty little things that you would criticize about one of the best offenses in the country, typically, it might be that his first halves are typically a lot stronger than his second halves.
Yeah, the problem that exists, though, Catch, is that one, true. Two, Sark won't push the panic button because at the end of the day, it's almost like an episode of the A-Team where it may look a little chaotic for a while, but then everything, they figure it out in the end. And then you just got Hannibal just lighting up the stogie and saying, I love it when a plan comes together.
Yeah, come on, Chad.
And so at that point, he's literally just like, yeah, it doesn't look good, but guess what? I'm at 7-1. I love it when a plan comes together. And he's, it's kind of hard to hit the panic button at that point.
Oh my God.
You just got to give BA, you got to drug him up, get him on a plane, and just get to your destination, wreak havoc, and get the hell out of there.
Never complain when a plan comes together, no matter how weird it was in the middle. Because Anwar's got a great point. That second or third commercial of the A-Team, we were all highly concerned at what was happening. It's like, oh my God, they're not getting out of this one. It's not going to happen.
I was just more highly concerned that they kept drugging a guy every single week. Like they kept finding ways to stab him with a needle when he wasn't looking to get him on a plane.
No, see, Anoir, with me, I was concerned about nowadays we need to be thinking about CTE for BA back in the day because they would hit him. They hit him with more 2x4s.
Yeah, that's true.
They would be, hey, BA, look over there. Bam! And they were hitting him in the back of the head like 3 times an episode. That was my concern.
Yeah, I just felt like he needed better friends, but I hear what you're saying.
He did. He was taking.
Can you imagine hanging out with a crew that once a week was just drugging you, and then you hung back out with them again?
He took more headshots in his career than Mick Foley.
That's true.
It was terrible.
He's
All
also
right,
pretty good at boxing, though.
he was. Yeah, he was very good. Prediction pain.
I mean, he did a number of some of his friends. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah.
I think I got more super chats.
Tom G with a $10 super chat. How can a punter be so damn good in high school and yet so poor in college? Not like the speed of the game is a steep learning curve. You either can or can't.
Because you don't have
pressure. Different, Tom.
You don't have pressure. The pressure that you face from a high school rushers compared to this is just totally different. And then and we got a stadium. So you talk about that's loud. You never played in front of 40,000, 100,000, all those things. There's so many other factors that are so much different than just playing at Fort like St. Thomas Aquinas.
There's almost is the position with the most different between, because in high school they're just kicking the balls hard, and I promise you every punter highlight tape I've ever seen is just some kid kicking it as far as he can. There's not directional kicking.
Correct.
They're not worried about hang time, no return. Like there's the speed of the athleticism. It's just completely different. And it's why now, Chad, now you're getting it from me. It's why when you take a kid out of high school,
here it comes.
No matter who it is, it's never better than 50-50. Never. And it's why I advocated for going to the portal, because you wanted to have an insurance policy in the event, you know what, he's a freshman. And not only that, but maybe he's not any good, because the mistakes happen all the time. Kicking offers are the hardest. It's why if I were a college coach making decisions, I would never have a kicker come out of high school. Every kicker that I would have play for me would be coming from someplace else that has showed me, okay, he can kick. Because these high school kids, I have no idea. And neither did they. They had no idea before Michael Kern showed up in campus in August just how good he actually was going to be. Now, it hasn't cost them any games. It probably won't cost them any games. So there's no reason to make this too big of a deal. But that was an unforced error. They could have had a punter. They've gone into the portal and gotten punters. They've known that area was poor in the past, and they've upgraded it. And they let their pride kick in, and the confirmation bias of, well, we recruited him, so we can't make a mistake. So we're going to lean into this kid that we've recruited that's completely unproven. Imagine doing that at any other position on the field. Yeah, we're just going to trust the freshman. Well, he kicked him. He kicked at a good high school, so yeah, why not? It just doesn't make any sense.
Anwar, I was one early. I really thought the other one was going to get him fired up to do that. I thought Tom G, well done.
I just hate stupid stuff, man, and that was stupid.
All right, let's go back up here.
But they can't get another punter in the portal now. I mean, like how many special team specialists are you going to have? You know, 2 kickers, 2 punters. Like, I mean, at some point, something's got to give.
Yeah, and that was bad. And then also,
I'm gonna whatever it takes. They didn't have to have Velton Gardner or whatever his name is.
I think you got it.
They could have. There was literally the starting punter at Notre Dame, who was really good last year, entered the portal and went to what shitty school did he go to? Like Syracuse?
Ugh.
It was like, wait a minute, you lost. You shouldn't have done that. And the problem was that the kid was a sophomore. So to take him would have meant taking him for 3 more years instead of 1 more year. But there were ways to address punter. Hell, tamper. Find a good punter and say, hey, you know who does NIL for punters better than anybody else? We do. Ask that kid from Stanford that we brought in, Ryan Sanborn. He was a rock star for a year. We paid him a bunch of money. You just get somebody to go into the portal illegally.
What do you do though?
Contact them. You just
Wait a minute.
push them in.
You just advocated for punter tampering? That's what you're advocating for? Punter tampering.
What happened tonight? Yes.
That's a bad.
But what do you do when Jeff Banks is a former punter and he comes to you and he's like, yeah, Sark, we're good on that, man. And like, you know me, you know my expertise. This is what I did, man. Come on, man. We're good. You trust your guy.
No chances if I don't have to. They had an open scholarship sitting there. And the thing is, if Kern's really, really good, you then have a backup in the event that he gets hurt, which has happened. The reality is I'm not so sure that Ratliff isn't better than Kern if you just look at the very basic numbers, your average yards per punt. He came into this week with a slightly higher number than Kern. I think he was at 44.0 and Kern was at 42.8 or something like that. That number dropped tonight. But nevertheless, let's move on because we put too much attention on punter.
That's true too.
Sorry, but you were triggering me.
It wasn't me. I didn't do it. I think they sent a super
I was yelling
chat.
at Tom.
It's Tom G. It's Tom G. Okay, Tom G did it. Okay.
Do we have more super chats?
We do have more super chats.
Okay.
Let's go to Bogey King, $4.99. Sark is scared to let Quinn throw deep shots or post routes. O-line is a huge liability. 11 sacks in 2 games given up. SEC refs are horrendous, and looks like a 9-3 prediction from Bogey King.
Wow, so he's got them losing. Yeah, he's got them losing 2 out of the next 4.
Mm-hmm.
So probably, I'm guessing Arkansas and A&M is probably
that's
the
what he's
guess.
saying.
Yeah. I don't think he would say Kentucky or Florida.
Yeah, and I think that Anoir, because of what we've talked about,
That'll be a death blow.
Bogey King, thank you very much for the $4.99. Fellas, it's because it's not just the basic football math of this isn't going to be good enough next week. Texas fans could do that leading into OU, right? If you're clunky and you win 10-7, they'll go, well, that ain't going to work in Dallas. Texas fans are smart enough to know what the other 2 road games are coming up, and they knew this was kind of that road tester. And every one of them watching this game knows that Fayetteville and College Station could go very much the other way if they do that. Again, if they go 10 penalties, 108, two turnovers that turn into 14 points, they may not get out of either place with a win if that happens.
Well, Chad, the concerning thing is that Anoir just told us that you are who you are in week 9 of the season. And I'm not saying he's wrong at all, but those clouds in those other SEC ports, they do loom darker right now than they did 2 weeks ago. And if they don't play better, like Anoir and I will co-sign on this, like probably not winning those games if you don't raise the level up at least somewhat. So one way or the other, that's got to happen.
Yeah, in fact, somebody sent us a super chat along the way. In fact, it was the next one on the list here, William from earlier. Thank you, William. Buy or sell. Texas goes 2-2, win the home, lose the road. Quinn's mind is shot. I guess that's an opinion is that all one buy or sell? We'd have to buy all of that or sell all of that.
I think that is all one buy or sell. That's how we play, Chad.
That is a lot. Okay, quarterback's mind is shot, and they go 2-2.
I'm selling that. I do not agree with all of it.
Yeah, that's too much. I'd have to sell it, Anoir. What about you?
Yeah, I don't think his mind is shot because if his mind is shot, he would have the first half would not have happened. So I wouldn't go that far. I don't know if they go 2-2, might go 3-1. With dropping 1, I think 3-1 is probably more realistic and still making the playoffs. Yeah. So I'm
telling you, watching this LSU A&M game, A&M can be had. They're clearly through the first 30 minutes of this game the second best team on this Kyle field. So it really is like Texas, nut up, step up, and play good football because there's no game that they should lose, and they probably will be favored in every game that they play. Tonight was really about every Monday on where they show up talking about wanting to play to a level. And that didn't happen tonight. That's what the goal is. The goal is don't worry about who the other team is. Let's come out and play to our apex, and everything else we'll let the dominoes fall if we're doing what we want to do at the level we want to do it. And they didn't do that tonight. But in future weeks, that's the goal. And if they can't hit that, this season's going to end shitty. In every way that Texas fans spent 9-10 months getting ready for this year talking about, they've just got to find that. There's just no excuses. Figure it out, Sark. Figure it out, players. Because if it doesn't happen, 9-3 is on the table. 10-2 is probably more likely. But I think maybe most concerning from that, you're traveling on the road in the first week of the playoffs, probably. But if the goal's national championship, you're not going to win 2, 3, 4 playoff games in a row with this. So they got to get better. It's just as simple as that. That's why these Quinn questions and comments feel so unfair, because this wasn't about a guy. This was not Chris Sims' 2001 Big 12 championship game. This was a total team breakdown in the second half, which everybody gets to raise their hand and say, I had a role in. But, Quinn could be better and play better, and they could lose games in these last 4 because the offensive line's not playing well, because they're committing too many penalties, because they're letting teams get early leads on them. I mean, we're 3 weeks in a row where the other team has scored first in games after going the first 5 games of the season without allowing a single first quarter point. Last 3 games, they've trailed in each game in the first quarter. It became very problematic against a team like Georgia. It will, trust me, be problematic in Fayetteville or College Station if they go on the road and they trail early. Oh, that is not the blueprint for winning those 2 games. The blueprint for winning those 2 games is Sark comes out with the script and they're awesome early on and they go up 2 scores and they keep those teams at a distance. To be fair, pretty much like they did for the majority of this game tonight. Texas goes up 21-7, and no matter what we want to say about it, until Vandy scores a late minute touchdown that makes it a 7-point game, Texas always had them at an arm's distance. You want to, as crappy as tonight was in a lot of respects, guys, the blueprint for how they did win this game is what you want them to do in the future. They just have to play a cleaner game, and the optics of this would just look miles different.
Anoir, super chats, or you got some?
Sorry.
We'll get a super chat here.
Yes,
okay.
yes, absolutely. It was somebody said they missed it. There was a super chat.
Okay, we got plenty of them in here, so y'all's may be in here if you're looking for them. We got a few piled up. Oscar 999. Do you think the penalties are because Quinn sucks? Surely, if we had Arch in there, we would have less penalties, right, guys? Surely Arch drags us out from the depths of Mordor. Wow, now we're into weird nerdy land too.
Okay.
Okay.
Oscar, it's just. Appreciate the super
Nerd!
chat.
No, just kidding. Hey, I know what Mordor is, so like while I'm calling him a nerd at the same time, you know, I watched the show on Amazon recently too.
I do.
All I would tell you, Oscar, is Quinn is your quarterback. You have to get Arch out your head. So you got to worry about who is going to be your QB over the next 4 games. Hopefully the 5th game, which would be the SEC championship game, and then the playoffs, because Arch is not coming back.
We got some nice some super chats into the tip jar here. Shout out to Sugar Poppy for $2. Says you need a Mexican to scout kicking. I think Sugar Poppy is maybe applying for the job. Sugar Poppy will let them know if they need somebody to let you know. Also, thank you to J.S. Hookham for throwing $1.99.
Where have all the Zendayas gone?
Well, now that's a country song I want somebody to write. Where have all the Zendayas gone? Super chat for $1.99. Not stretching the field equals no deep playoff run. Matt, that maybe it's not just that simple, but okay. They certainly didn't do a super great job of stretching the field tonight. Let's go to this one because it's directed right at Catch. James says for $4.99, Vandy didn't adjust second half. Catch. Texas had crippling penalties, mostly on first down plays and a turnover. Texas just played worse in the second half.
It sounds like, James, Vandy won the second half 14-6. We're not giving Vandy any credit. They're like that guy that cheated on his wife. He just fell into it. I'm sorry, honey. I tripped on a rock. Insertion. So sorry.
Wow. Okay, I'm just going to take a.
They didn't adjust at all. Okay. All right, James. I'm wrong. My bad.
Anoir, did you have that analogy on your on the bingo card tonight?
No, let's just keep rolling.
Oh my God.
Let's keep going. We got
YouTube channel name. Down. Well done. $4.99. Catch, remember when you said this team is better than the 08-09 team's LMAO? How dare you bring somebody's comments back?
Now look, I don't remember really stepping on a table for 2008. Let's talk about 2009, though. The Nebraska game, the Oklahoma game where Colt basically pissed down his leg for 4 quarters and Texas winning 16-13 on a game the other team playing with a backup quarterback because Bradford gets knocked out early. They still almost beat a Texas team with a healthy Colt McCoy because Colt just was abjectly terrible. The Texas, come on, like the 2009 team is literally nothing to write home about other than I do think they would have won that game against Alabama if Colt stays healthy. But in the toughest games of that season, they just weren't that good. So most of my comments are much more 2009 centric than they are 2008 centric. Although what I would say about the 2009 comparison, which is kind of weird, think about what that 2009 offense was. It was a whole lot of Jordan Shipley and then not a lot of other guys in the passing game getting involved. They really lacked diversity in the passing game. Jordan just felt like had to do everything. With Isaiah Bond out of the game and not healthy the last couple of games, Texas hasn't felt like one of the best wide receiver units in the country. I don't know whose fault that is, but it doesn't feel like, oh my God, they've got so many playmakers. How do they play them all? I'd like to see some more playmaking. So anyway, but yeah, laugh my ass off.
There you go. All right. Here, Sugar Poppy, we found it. Thank you for sending that $5 super chat. Let's cheer up for a minute. OU got their ass kicked. I don't know if I go that far, but I don't know about ass kicked, but they did lose. They're 4-4, and they're not done losing. Welcome back, John Blake's Oklahoma. I think we could give that a light clap.
Now the second half is
the second part is nice.
Yeah,
the second part. They are 4-4,
yeah.
ladies and gentlemen.
Well, we all said that they probably we knew there was one guaranteed win, which I think was Maine.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they have on a schedule, and then everything else is a coin toss as far as them being bowl eligible. There's no Bo or all these guys who are Oklahoma fans. Like they have
Let me give you the game of the year in the SEC, because Oklahoma's losing in Baton Rouge. Alabama, I think, will come into Norman and win that game. So that means OU's playing for bowl eligibility Saturday, November 9th, Columbia, Missouri. And then what could be the ugliest SEC game of the 2024 entire season within the conference?
Yeah, and Catch, a lot of Blue Blood fans know this is true. That's going to be a game where your helmet, your logo, and your history will work against you. It will not work for you. They will show up that day, and you should not be pumped to play them based on football talent. You should not be pumped to play that team. That Missouri team will be as ready to go as they could be. For the record, fellas, that Missouri team is a mess too. You're right. That I don't know what to expect that day. 12-10 would be my prediction. Final score. Whoever wins it. Sugar Poppy, thank you for the reminder about OU today. All right, let's grab this one from Trend76, $5. HC, head coach. But I was going for a specific player, but no, just head coach has butt tight, like Ewers around trouble. Where's Gibson/Cook? Best play calling was with the use of multiple people and their different traits. Maybe. Right.
Maybe instead of saying he's trying to say has, maybe wanted to say as butt tight. Maybe that's what he was trying to say. Like you was around trouble. I think maybe I'm trying to decipher. I think that's what he's trying to say. Look. If you're not seeing Gibson and Cook, I mean, that's just not going to happen. So it is what it is. They've gone where they've gone to. Catching up. We were all talking a little bit in our team's channel. The Jont Cook thing. I tried to put that on everybody's radar back in April, and I was called clickbait. I was told I was stirring the pot. I was told that I was called everything but a child of God. I pulled up the tweet and I read through it, and I thought some of the people were very mean. By the way, very uncalled for some of the comments. I put the Jont Cook thing out there as a look. This could be problematic. and here we are, 9 weeks in. It just kind of is what it is.
Anoir, we had somebody told you in the offseason there was a conversation about Cook, and there was a number that was thrown out as to like how many balls he would catch this season. And I don't want to like say too much because I don't even remember who it was that said it. So, I don't want to get anybody in trouble or anything, but it's wild that during the offseason we heard a number and we were like, what? And that now feels crazy. Like Chad, like the idea of, you can catch like 30 passes this year. And I think it was lower than that, but there was a feeling of like, really?
Yeah. I remember it now. Yes.
Like,
and I remember
surely.
Man, I remember having that there, and I remember doing shows with Alex who tell me how cockamamie I was for the notion that Jonte was not going to have a major role in the offense. It just is not how
people
it's
in the program
happened.
saw this happening. They're not surprised.
Yeah.
Well, and I was about to say, guys, do we think that could be a big reason why they went so hard into the portal? Is that part of it? Is that part of why it wasn't just one of those guys or two of those guys, but it was all three of those guys? I don't know.
I mean, there are no accidents.
Yeah. All right, let's get through the rest. We're doing 2 hours. Let's get through the rest of these things. Let's go.
$4.99 super chat. I don't come out of this impressed by Vandy. Texas beat Texas today. Whoa. Texas won the game. Calm down. Just clunky, to quote Chad. Yes, they were clunky, but don't say beat. So Texas didn't beat Texas. What are you talking about? They won the game. But yeah, we could understand that. We understand where you're going with that one. 199 from William. Wisner is happy feet. And I think that's supposed to be pisses me off. Just go. Do you guys think Wisner was dancing a little much?
Sometimes.
I'm not sure that I saw. Yeah, maybe.
Nothing egregious where I felt like oh my God, like what is this guy doing? But maybe William was watching it a little bit more intently. I'll watch the replay and
by the way, thank you for a $5 super chat from is it Patient JT? Thank you, JT. Throwing something in the old tip jar for us. We appreciate it. Jay jumps in with $2 and says O-line isn't close to elite, it's average. Would we go that far, guys, to use that word, average?
I mean,
is that fair?
Average when they commit too many penalties and aren't functioning well as an offense, partly because they're not blocking well. So as a whole, they're somewhere in between that. But at their worst, they're certainly average-ish.
Okay. Onward, do you agree with that word? Average, is that fine? Yeah.
Sure.
All right, Jay, we appreciate that. How about Cooper? $4.99. Could be wrong, but Quinn seems like he plays reserved because he's afraid to get hurt.
Didn't think that was an issue today.
I mean, I can't get into his mindset. Yeah, I can't get into mindset. I thought he looked better today than I've seen before. I thought he was moving around the pocket a lot better.
He's been back
did
for
a better
sure.
job of. Yeah, he was avoiding sacks. I think he was scrambling. So I didn't see that part of him. He just plays that. That's his brand of football.
Cooper, we appreciate the $4.99. Likewise, $5 from Horn. Is it me, or is Quinn still the most lost player on the field? Lost? I don't know if that's how I would describe three in this game. Lost. Might be a little strong.
I don't know if he's lost. I mean, it was, again, 288 yards passing, 3 touchdowns. I mean, completed 73% of his passes. He did have the 2 interceptions, a 154.3 passer rating. Not the greatest, but it's livable. You're manageable. It's okay. He was at 200 at one point, so close to 200 at one point. So.
You guys don't know this thing is 57-12. And Anoir made a comment in the team's chat. He pulled a catch. He said something before it was over with, and then it blew up. It's all his fault. Believe me, as the master of jinxes.
Well, if you want to talk about what was being said in teams, we could talk about what you were saying about him.
I said he threw a ball. You overreacted in teams. You did.
I didn't over. No. You know what? Because he went when he was doing well. You never commented on how good he was doing, and then he had one bad throw. You're like, he overthrew it. He missed Gunner Hell. He did all this great things. You never said anything.
My point on that wasn't that he made a bad throw. My point on that ball that he threw to Wisner was that deeper down the field, he had an open receiver. Now, look, let's just say you're 100% right, and he hit Wisner in the hands, and Wisner should have caught the ball. And who knows, maybe Wisner does what it takes and he converts into a first down. The point that I was making, and I think this is systematic or like problem. This goes in hand with kind of the overall problems that we're seeing in the offense, is that there was a play to be made further down the field, and they're not taking those shots. Now, I would love to see the end zone version of that, because maybe there's a safety that in the couple of angles that I saw that I didn't see, that Quinn kept him from making that throw. But in general, it's a Texas offense that isn't making deep intermediate, or, it's just so much near the line of scrimmage. My only point about that play was, and it was early, and it was, again, in the second half, it kind of became a thing. They're just not taking those shots and connecting on those shots. That was my only point, because I will say this. I was like 7 for 7 on Quinn Ewers today on Prize Picks. And it was touchdowns, passing yards, 1 interception play. I have to admit, I did do that. But I was all week long, I've said I thought Quinn would hit the Moors. I said in my prediction, I thought Quinn would break out of a slump. I gambled on Prize Picks that he would have success. The one that I missed on was Ryan Wingo, and it's going to mean I don't cash on a lot of things today. But all my Quinn stuff hit, man. You might have thought I wasn't commenting, but I was pumping fists when he was throwing touchdown passes and gobbling up yards in the first half like he was in a Pac-Man game.
All right. All right. $4.99 from Jay Bevo Horn. Quinn had 211 yards passing. Of that, 176 came from skill players. Yak, explain to me how the skill players weren't doing enough. I'm not sure what that.
Well, that's in the first half. 211 is what he threw in the first half.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure what that's referencing. Jay Bevo Horn. I'm not sure.
I mean, I think at the end of the day, Quinn, whatever Quinn is doing has Sark's approval on it as far as the short passes. I mean, that falls on Sark more probably than it does on Quinn, because if it was as simplistic as I need this guy to throw deeper passes, well, again, I think you would see that. Like, I think he would tell you got to throw it. Like, I stopped pissing around. Like, go do this. But the fact that that's what he's not doing, I think that's Sark coached more so than anything else. Now, there's a quibble of, is he seeing it or not? And that, everyone could quibble about that portion. But I think Sark when he goes back and looks at the film, he's saying, okay, you made the right throw. You did exactly what I told you to do in these circumstances.
He did say on Monday, though, that
you don't see it
when big explosive plays are open, Quinn has to find those plays and hit them. That was his only real little bit of criticism of Quinn on Monday at the Monday press conference. And I think there were some plays, some throws that were probably available. And I'm curious, he won't say it publicly, but privately, I think he'll think to himself, again, those are plays we've got it. When they're available, we have to find a way to make those happen.
Jay Bevo Horn, thank you for that one. A few more super chats to grab here. JT, $5. Texas should have won like 40-17. Dumb penalties killed us all night long. Quinn was okay, but we were still mainly a dink and dunk offense with him. Yeah, we've kind of been talking about that throughout the postgame show. Anything to add there, fellas?
Not really.
Yeah, I mean, that's been a part of it. JT, thank you for checking it out tonight. Thank you for that super chat. $4.99 from Rusty. The penalty on 45 hurt If not for that penalty, we are up 34-17. Yeah, instead turned into 27-24. That is a wild swing there, not to mention that Broughton's out for the first half of the Florida game, but would have felt a lot different at 34 to 17, assuming it obviously stays that way. A little time on the clock there. Rusty, thank you for that one. And again, Broughton will be out for that first half. $2 super chat, not enough points off turnovers and penalties certainly hurt. Yeah, the points off turnovers, Paxton, 14-0 there through the effective part of the game. That's a tough way to do business. And a couple more super chats here. $5 from Paxton. How do you fix penalties in practice when you're, I'm assuming, not in control? Bot in control? Not in control, I guess.
Control.
You don't.
All right.
It's a great question.
Yeah.
Great question.
Right. That's,
You don't.
That's fair. Yeah, tough to do.
Yes. Hence why you see what you see, right? I mean,
Last
it is
super
what it
chat of the
is
night,
at that
guys,
point.
and then we say goodbye.
Last one. Paxton, $2. I'm with Anoir. These refs have been suspicious. Suspicious minds. That is what it is. Before we are done, guys, Anoir, I was inspired by your A-team reference. I have a quick reference for Sark. Are you ready? It's back to the 80s.
Sure.
It's MacGyver. Think of every episode of MacGyver that you ever watched. There can't be a moment where someone turns to him and says, "What do we do?" And his answer is, "Did you just turn it off and turn it back on yet? Oh, you tried that? Didn't work?" That's not what MacGyver was about. He was an idea man. Sark has to have ideas, especially on first down. Their first downs are bizarre to watch right now, and he's supposed to be MacGyver. Do not turn to the people that are counting on you and say, "Did you jiggle the doorknob?" Well, yeah, of course we tried jiggling the door. Well, I don't know. But that can't be his answer. That's what it feels like right now.
I think you kind of landed the plane there, Chad.
I can tell I didn't from your face and Anwar's face. I gave it a shot. All right. We are done.
Crash landed, but you landed.
Maybe, yeah, I landed like Ted Stryker, but I landed.
Can I say the quiet thing out loud? How many drinks have you had over there at TCH Social, Chad? Like, because I'm just asking because I know they had some specials going on today. I get the feeling like they took care of you there. You had a long day, and I'm just don't answer it. Answer it on there.
I'm going to say 2. I watched him stick to 2 the last time I was there with him. How many, Chad? 0.
Yeah.
That's a lie. That's a lie. That's a lie from the pit of hell.
I would tell you if it was. I would tell you if it was any, but sadly and ironically, the answer is none.
Well, then, and let's end the show so you get some rest.
Watch the second half of his Aggies.
There you go. And yes, someone is reminding me. Navy Notre Dame. Right team was favored. Yes, one more chance. Right team was favored.
You were so emphatic about that yesterday
in the Notre Dame Navy game. All right, there you go. I'm definitely taking my share at the end of the postgame show. Thanks everybody for liking, subscribing, and getting those notifications. Thanks to the Lowy Law Firm as always for sponsoring the postgame show, and thanks to TCH Social Austin. That is where we are for all of the watch parties. If you're not heading to the games, head on over here and check it out. We hadn't shown it to you tonight, but let's just show you. We mention it every week. Yeah, it's lively. That ain't from hours ago. As of right now, this place is absolutely packed. Big, beautiful venue. If you are into the card play inside of it, they definitely have stuff for you. Even if you want to just go watch that big, beautiful screen back there, they can certainly help you out with that as well. So thanks to TCH Social Austin for having us out one more time.
Somebody injures you, Adam Lowy will get you the money that you need to make those bastards pay.
Off week next week. And remember, the Florida game's already been set for 11 a.m. 2 11 a.m.s coming back to back. Florida's an 11 a.m. at home. Arkansas, 11 a.m. on the road. So kegs and eggs for the next 2 games for Texas. Anoir, get home safely. Safe travels to you and everybody else that might be checking us out from Nashville. Who knows? And we will talk to you guys on the channel. And, of course, at orangebloods.com for all your great content. Check it all out. These two guys bring you, you got Sunday Pulpit coming from Anoir. You got the 10 thoughts from the weekend coming from Catch. Make that a part of your Sundays in case you don't do that currently, and get signed up with orangebloods.com if you haven't done that. We are done. We'll see you on the next post game. 2-minute warning of the Florida game. Y'all be safe out there. See ya.